Now check it out, y'all. Folks came in from England, folks came in from Japan, folks came in from all over the country. I'm telling you, this is a killer success.
Yeah.
Shonda, Shoshana, everybody that participated, everybody that made this happen. This has been real groovy. I hope this is just the beginning of many funk conventions, y'all.
Yeah.
On behalf of George Clinton and Parliament-Funkadelic, y'all, we want to thank you for having us here. Y'all been real groovy. Y'all have a good night, a safe night. We love you.
Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. This week we've basically got a mini documentary about the P-Funk Fest, Let's Take It to the Stage 2026, celebrating the life, legacy, and the music of George Clinton. George doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He's debuting the new mothership at Essence Festival in New Orleans in July. He had so much energy at P-Funk Festival. It was absolutely wonderful to see.
He's simply my big brother. Everybody give it up to my big brother, Mr. George Clinton, y'all.
A few weeks ago, Danny Bedrosian did a solo concert at the Blue Tavern, playing a bunch of old Parliament and Funkadelic covers. And about 5 songs in, George shows up and sat in the rest of the set. And you can find all the videos to that on my channel. P-Funk Fest was hosted by Ed Larson from Last Podcast on the Left. There were sketches throughout the day, as well as hilarious comedy. He's really funny. Go check his stuff out. Go check out Last Podcast on the Left. Danny and George were just on there. It's on Netflix, so check that out. But Ed Larson hosted, and he brought with it the kind of fanfare that you think of when you think of Funkadelic. You had Ligedelic, you had Secret Army, you had Kendra Foster. It was an insane day. You had so many members of the P-Funk family come up and do their thing. And then at the end of the night, you saw all of them come up and do something as part of the big show too. Kendra Foster was up there singing. Of course, Danny Lodge and Benzel were up there playing. You had Starchild's son up there singing. It was amazing. I cannot wait. And I'm happy to have been there and to document it. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Thanks, y'all.
All right. I'm back here, Shonda, for coming back on the podcast.
P-Funk Festival.
Yes, we
I'm
are.
So excited.
How's it going?
Everything is going awesome. It's filling up. It is on, making the people laugh.
The weather is
The
perfect.
weather is perfect.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Awesome.
And like you said, we got Ed Larson barking in the
Yes.
background, but
Yes.
you probably can hear us okay. So what are some of the things that have come together that have surprised you today?
There's so many people I haven't seen for years and years, like from all over. We have a friend called Lois of London. She's from London. She's here.
I saw a guy from Japan here.
Japan, yes. That all the funk fans really showed up and showed.
Yeah, it's
So-
really amazing.
So happy.
The energy is electric.
Yeah, it's a great vibe. Everybody is loving it. Everybody's loving each other. It's
The music has been fantastic
awesome,
too.
awesome. Ligedelic is back.
I can't
We
wait for
still
that.
got all night. The universe looks out for us. It's a beautiful day on the farm. The farm is beautiful. All of the vendors are awesome. It is a great day.
What are some of the things that have popped up that you weren't like, you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Was there anything like
The
that?
same thing, yeah. Fans from all over, everywhere. And he loves music, all kinds of music. So I've never had the grandfather, that's not good for you to listen to. That's the kind of music that he likes.
It's the kind of music he makes.
Yeah, exactly. That most parents don't want their kids to listen to.
Right.
That's when George says, that's what I want to do.
George Clinton transcends all that. Dre, Snoop, Kendrick Lamar, Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Fishbone. My point is that funk celebrates all kinds of music, and so did Funk Fest. Pharaohs of Funk ended their set with a killer cover of Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine, going into Give It Away by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the tone was set for the day.
With a pocket full of shells, said they rally around their family.
The P-Funk show is one of the most diverse shows
my
you'll ever
God.
go to. The P-Funk Festival wasn't George's idea. In fact, it was Shonda's.
Trying to uphold this legacy of George's and the whole P-Funk overall. That is what led me to it. Because luckily, right now where we are, George is really getting his flowers from across the board through the industry. The Walk of Fame and the Grammy, the Lifetime Achievement Award. Actually, right now, Maggot Brain has been inducted into the Grammy Museum, the album Maggot Brain. Me too.
That's my
Me
favorite.
too. I think that's actually my favorite P-Funk song.
Yeah.
Maggot Brain. Yes.
Yeah.
This is not Live Nation or any
Thank God.
big promoters or anything. This is the family that's putting it together.
I think there's a reason that punk and funk rhyme. They run on the same budget.
I can agree with that. I definitely can agree with that for sure.
And I
For
mean
sure.
that in an innovative,
Yes.
DIY,
Yes.
creative way.
The West Coast is definitely what brought a lot of George's music to the forefront in the 90s with all the Snoops and Dr. Dre's and
All that being
every
sampled. Yeah.
every Los Angeles cookout, the G-Funk era. And that's when all of the rappers began to come to him because it wasn't just the samples, because of course the samples are cool, but George is cool. So it was cool to have his samples, but it was even cooler to have George
He's
on
like
the
the
album.
epitome of cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's when I seen my favorite rappers calling George their favorite artist. That's when it was like, wow, mind blown. Snoop, I love Snoop. And Snoop was like, no, I love George. And I'm like, George? Oh.
Did you think he was cool growing up, or was he just grandpa?
He was cool. He was always cool because he's a cool guy.
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
was just grandpa.
And then
And he always acted like grandpa. It was never security. He just wasn't that type of guy. He's just.
But when your favorite artists start telling you
Then
that,
I'm like, oh, he really is the guy.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the Scarface.
legitimized it
my,
for you.
know, my favorite artists from the 90s, Scarface and Snoop and all of them. I love them and they love him.
That gave you an outsider perspective because you grew up with it just always being there and maybe even taking it for granted sometimes.
Right. Oh, definitely.
And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, wait a second.
I'm with the man. All of the accolades that he's getting right now, I think is awesome. And it also brought me to where I am now, thinking that everybody should be a part of it. The whole P-Funk universe, the whole diaspora, everyone that has helped him to be where he is now. And to make everyone feel that it's just as much theirs as it is his, because that's how he is.
what was the original inspiration to do it? Is it something you've been wanting to do for a long time?
Yes,
or?
it is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I've been talking about it for years and beating the band members in the head. I'm gonna put the festival together. Watch, and actually, I think the reasoning behind it is I always thought it was so cool the way George did the shows in the 70s, and it was Build Parliament-Funkadelic, Boosie's Rubber Band, Parlette, Brides of Dr. Funkenstein, and they were all the same people. And that's what we are now, to a certain extent.
Yeah, and he's going to be playing in like 8 bands
Exactly.
that day.
And the same with Lodge, and the same
Yeah.
with, but,
Benzos,
and we
yeah.
have so many fans that each of the bands have their own niche. You got a lot of the bands that love Secret Army, a lot of the bands that love 420 Funk Mob and Ligedelic.
I know a bunch of people that are excited to see the Solar System play for the first time in
years. Yes.
Like
I want it to be a celebration. I want it to be intimate. I want the fans to feel like they're a part of something special.
It's the fact that we've had the freedom to do this in our way.
You go from this big thing, okay, let's have 3 days and 5 stages, and do we really want to even try to do that right now? Let's let it organically grow. But
especially when there's so many of the same musicians, it makes it easier to, you have things backlined on stage.
Exactly.
And my biggest frustration
is choosing which one you want to watch at one time.
Exactly.
And that was the one thing, like even as we do grow and we have 2 and 3 stages and things, I don't want you to miss one band to see the other. So anytime we have our shows, it will definitely be staggered time so you can get a chance to see all, because everybody deserves a chance to be seen, especially when we're doing it. This is the family, the P-Funk family. We don't want you to have to choose which one that you're going to watch.
The P-Funk Festival was an all-day event starting at 11 a.m. Went until probably about 11:30. They were running a little behind, and there were some additional acts that they had as surprise guests. But there was no curfew, which was an amazing thing because it was on private land.
At Phipps Farm, where the festival will be, it's actually private property.
The P-Funk Festival was held at Phipps Farm in Tallahassee, Florida, which is a historic piece of land for a number of reasons. It was originally inhabited by the Appalachian Indians. In fact, twice. They were driven out and then came back and then driven out again by Spanish colonizers. After the Appalachian Indians were driven off the second time, it became a traditional Southern plantation with slavery and everything else that you would think of that comes along with that. And then eventually, after the Civil War, it became a quail hunting plantation. Since 1966, Phipps Farm has been an equestrian event space, and the family that's owned it has focused a lot on land stewardship. I do think it's important to note the historical significance of the land for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about throughout this episode. George Clinton has lived in Tallahassee since 1994 and has continued to tour the world since, yet he continues to stay here. He finds it quiet, peaceful. He loves calling Tallahassee home. And I think it was fitting for him to do his big family affair here in Tallahassee.
P-Funk isn't just funk. Like,
No.
It encompasses so many different things. It's hip-hop, and it's R&B, and it's rock, and it's jazz, and it's blues, and it's all of the things that, no other genre.
So there are memoirs out there. There are autobiographies out there. There are biographies out there. And there is an oral history. However, at this point, it leaves out a large portion of the history since it was written. And Lowell and its twin city, Lawrence, where I was born, at one point in America were the most diverse cities in all of America. That was where, like, literally all the immigrants got dropped off and they worked in the textile factories. Because before 1920, all of the clothes in America were made in Lawrence, Massachusetts. So my first sort of introductions to funk were through James Brown, Ray Charles, Neville Brothers. Those were like the funkiest things I was hearing first. But that was at a very early age. And I even took a liking to world music very early on. Being Armenian, We had the Armenian picnics we would go to. We would see the Armenian bands playing. So that was obviously a huge influence on me, like from the very beginning. But I also was really into like West African music. I was really into like Peruvian indigenous music. And I was hearing all this stuff in Boston, just on the street. People, they'd have world music ensembles just playing on the street. And then in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is closer to where I was born, they would have the Lowell Folk Festival every year.
Did an event. It was called Paid in Full. It was in Las Vegas. And they honored George and Nas and Rakim and a lot of other rappers and things like that. And it was really awesome. Dr. Dre actually came out from the audience and he was like, while George was doing the panel, and he was like, I just want to let y'all know, like, this man right here is the reason I am who I am. And there would be no Dr. Dre, which means no G-Funk, no Snoop Dogg, no this, that, like, and everything that came from that, if it wasn't for this guy right here.
Yeah.
And that meant so much we can see it in the music, but for him to, wait, I'm not going to let this moment go by without saying.
I told myself from 11, I said, I'm going to be the keyboard player for P-Funk when I grow up. And my parents, who were always supportive of me,
Sounds like absurd now.
Yeah,
even
I
to
know,
hear.
it does. And my parents, who were working musicians, they never said that's stupid. They never said that'll never happen. But my mother, the only thing my mother said was, Danny, aren't they a lot older? And this is crazy. I think about this now. And my mother always talks about it, how as each particular little stride that I had made towards communication and greater relationship with these guys, including George specifically, each time I remember my mother said, she told friends and family, she said, okay, he got to go to the show. That's good. Before George passes on, because he's not young. And this, keep in mind, this is like 35 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Before he retires or passes on, it's good that Danny got to go see them. And then I had the opportunity where I won this contest where you make the bed sheet for George. He used to wear these big bed sheets. And there's a lot of artists in my family, fine artists.
Yeah.
And so I have some, and for a long time, before I discovered P-Funk, my dream job was to be a comic book artist. So I had been drawing my whole life. I designed this thing with all the iconography of P-Funk all over it and lyrics. It was very colorful, and it won the contest. And he's like, you can deliver this to George Clinton in Providence, Rhode Island. He's going to wear it. You get your pictures, and you get to hang out with the band backstage the whole night. I was like, dream
And how
come
old
true.
are you at this point?
16.
16.
So
okay.
dream come true. So I do that. I meet him. My mother's like, okay, he met him. So that's where it's gonna stop. So then I start getting to know the band a little better. And by the time I get to college, I'm still going to the shows. I'm front row. Now, keep in mind, that very first time I met them, I drop off my demo. I have the wherewithal to drop music off to the guys. And so they knew, oh, he not only was smart enough to give us this, but it actually sounded like something that we could do. Like, he got like that P-Funk, whatever that is, that feel, that ooga booga, it's in him. So,
stank.
Yeah, that stank. So they liked what they heard, but they first started having me come to the shows, and I would, because I had keyboards, I was a keyboard player, I would provide keyboards and do like technician gigs, like supplemental technician gigs for the keyboardists in the band.
Now, Danny says that funk can't really be put into words, even though he's an author. It's more of a feeling. Things like the pocket and the groove are deeply tied to historical African-American music tradition.
The music program at University of New Hampshire wasn't going to teach you anything, but
No.
the College of P-Funk had
Yes.
a lot to show you.
Oh my God. I learned almost as much there as I did in my classical training. Just so much about performance and feel and paying attention and how to play. Like, I always knew how to play an ensemble, but like the real kind of minutia of playing an ensemble and following a band leader and following George, which is a case study all in itself. I like the idea of writing about history. And so I did the colloquium, which is like, not all history majors do it, but it's the kind of thing you do if you want to become like a degree-holding historian or the historian that writes about history. It took 25 years for me to be like, oh, I've got this training that they drilled into me that I've never forgotten. I might as well utilize it in this in this kind of way. And I will say this, as strange as it sounds, getting the history major, getting the Middle Eastern Studies degree at UNH provided me with a wealth of wisdom in my touring life. Because not only was I aware of cultural norms, and not even just in the Middle East, anywhere in the world, just because of my historical knowledge, because it was something I gravitated towards as a youth.
Yeah.
Just knowledge of historical cultural norms in different countries has allowed us as a band a little bit of degree of comfort and fluidity in navigating certain kinds of travel and certain kinds of hospitality situations and certain kinds of transportation situations and little things. That was my studio career with George. Luckily, I had been, besides having gigged since I was a preteen, I had started working in major professional studios back when professional studios existed. Major professional studios as a producer from age 17. So like I had already done, by the time I'd met George, I was already starting to work in these studios. And
Now, were you doing session work?
yes,
Okay.
but I was also producing full-length albums. Because I had, from, I guess you could backtrack and say from 98 to 03, I had what eventually became an 18-piece funk band called Sweet Mother Child up in Boston. And we recorded 6 full-length professional studio albums. It's the only music of mine which has not been reprinted or digitized. So it's an interesting side note. And it was a great band. In fact, my wife discovered this music like a year ago. And she's like, why haven't you ever played this for me? I'm like, the band you're in when you're in high school and college, you're not necessarily like wistful about the quality necessarily. But I will say, comparably to all the other bands we were playing with, we were very high quality. And we could stand our own against adults like any given day. But we were definitely kids. And we were, so I look back at it the same way I think that George looks back at his like very earliest records by the Parliament. It's like, oh, we couldn't sing, we couldn't. Because you're just thinking about you as a kid. But whenever I go back and revisit those records, it's very rare. But when I do, it's like, oh yeah, we were doing something. So it was a great training ground for working with George. I had 6 albums under my belt, and then I produced 3 others for other bands. So I was like becoming a producer of other groups. Didn't matter if they were punk rock, hip hop, or whatever. And I was starting to really do this production thing. So it allowed me the wherewithal to have some kind of lucid abilities in the studio with George and with the guys in P-Funk when I would come down to what was at the time the studio in Monticello, which is very close to here. I only flew into Tallahassee. We immediately left Tallahassee and would go to Monticello. So Tallahassee was just the place where the airport was. And then we were going to this country town in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, what are we doing? And they lived down a dirt road, way in the woods, way off a highway. Because you have to go to the most remote part of the most remote town in North Florida to find this studio. And yeah, I would work there like on...
Start hearing banjos.
Yeah, exactly. Which for me was big culture shock coming from the North. But
Yeah.
I definitely cut my teeth on a lot of the work with George, like that studio stuff in those early days. And it was definitely a huge learning experience because it was preparing me for my eventual road job. I had done some road work, but the studio thing bracketed between my early road work, teching when I was still in college, to when I got hired on full-time on the payroll. Yeah.
And you start, but you're dedicated to finishing your degree.
George even said, finish school.
Yeah.
Finish school. I would come to the shows, front row, drop off my newest album, my newest music. I'd go backstage with George. Me and George would be singing the rest of the night till they closed the dressing room down. We got to go. We got to get out of here. He'd pull me on the bus. We'd go singing on the bus. Because I knew all the really old songs by like the Parliaments, and he was blown away that this 17, 18-year-old kid knew these songs. Like, how do you know this stuff? He's like, my band doesn't even know this stuff. That was my studio career with George. Luckily, I had been, besides having gigged since I was a preteen, I had started working in major professional studios back when professional studios existed. Major professional studios as a producer from age 17. So like I had already done, by the time I'd met George, I was already starting to work in these studios.
Do you think he saw what you could become in terms of somebody that could help tell his story, protect his legacy, show this kind of this stuff to the world in a way?
I think initially it was just, here's this kid who knows this music really well. I can't believe somebody so young knows this really old music. And I don't think it even had reached like a musicological level yet at that point, because then they hired me as a technician. But my very first gig, I had to play the whole show. So the technician thing didn't last super long. There was a period where I was gigging and teching the whole show. So it was like being a basketball player. It was it was insane. But I think early on, it was really a lot, like George saw my knowledge, but the band saw my talent. So it was the guys in the band, Blackbird McKnight, Billy Bass Nelson, Bernie Worrell, Gary Scheider, Cordell Mawson. These guys were like, yo, this guy can really play. This kid can play. And they would have me play with them at sound checks. And then those playing at sound checks turned into me playing in the show. And then first it would be, first show aside when I had to play the whole show, aside from that, it would be like, Danny's going to play on one song. Okay, he was going to play on 2 songs now. But then by June of 04, which means by that point I'd been in the band 9 months. So by 9 months, I'm doing the whole show regularly, like every night. And so that was like a growth. That was like a growing into that situation.
Right.
Now, Danny Bedrosian has played over 5,000 shows with George Clinton and Parliament-Funkadelic, and he's played on all 6 continents, and he also calls Tallahassee home.
I love a place that we play in Amsterdam. What is it called? I can't remember, but that's why it's Amsterdam. That's definitely, that's one of my favorite places. I love Australia. I love playing.
Sativa's real diva.
Oh yeah, they love her over there. They love her. They love Paradiso. That's what it's called, the Paradiso. In Amsterdam.
I've heard of that.
Yes, that's an awesome venue. I love when we go to Australia, but the notable festivals, we've played Glastonbury. Yeah. We've played all of the big giants. We played Sonic in Japan, Central Park in New York. We've done a lot of big ones. The Juggalos.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, and
Gathering.
That's just P-Funk. Like we can play a jazz fest today. Tomorrow we're at a rock fest. And the next week we at a hip hop fest. And George knows the audience, and he looks out there and he like, okay, I know exactly what I'm playing. We have some of the promoters. I need the set list.
I think the layperson sees the sheen on the front of party, good time, chaos. But you go right behind that to the band, and it is like everyone is in full-on concentration mode. And if one of them lets up, the rest of them can feel it. Like it's like like all these organisms coming together to become one organism. And it's strict, and it's more strict than people think. Like, it's not this just fun.
Everybody think when you go on the road, it's a party. You're on tour, you're in these cities, and just understanding that I'm there for a job, more so than anything. And I speak to people a lot, and they be like, oh, you're going to Los Angeles or New York City. Have you ever been here and here?
Like, no, I've been
to the venue, I've been to this hotel, and that's it. And understanding that's a part of the job.
Being able to stay in his band for this many years was not because he just liked me as a person, or because I like this band and I don't want to quit, or because I was able to not get fired. Right. That's literally what it is. And a lot of people just can't hang, even great musicians, because it's a very hard job. You have to unlearn a lot of stuff you learned. You have to put into practice theories that you maybe didn't even know existed until contemporaneous moments. And you have to really make those theories work every single time. Like, it has to be perfect every single time, which goes back to my classical training and helps, obviously. And Bernie Worrell, who was my mentor, he was classically trained. And so, like, to have the classical training and P-Funk to be the keyboard player, it's a must in a way. But I also tried to take it upon myself to learn the way every subsequent keyboard player played this music, because there's no kind of end in the variation to how this music has been played. And if you can figure out how everybody did it, then you can put your stamp on it. And then you can fully say, I understand the canon in a much more like comprehensive way. But it's not an easy band to stay in. Like,
What are some of the things you remember struggling with, like directly, especially early on?
Yeah, so like in the early days, like George would do this thing where he'd say, turn down and play hard. That's hard to do, especially like when you're like looking at situations where the sound man doesn't want you to turn down. The sound man wants you to actually turn up all the way so he doesn't like get surprised later on. So now you're turning down and playing hard, and it's a different velocity. In a way, it stuck me in this one thing where they started upgrading my speakers over time as I became a more important member of the thing, and they started upgrading my rig. Then I had to learn how to get used to hearing myself so loud. Oh my God, I'm so loud. Am I like bothering everybody? And everybody else is hearing it. They're not hearing like, Scandal! Like, but I'm hearing it like I had to get used to that. And I was like, oh no, what is this? Some other things too were like, George would do this thing where we would be in a groove and it's just one line, and he would have us play that one line sometimes for a half hour. And there's something with repetition. It's no different than if you were forced to recite a single sentence, a short sentence, like the bottle's on the table. And he's saying the bottle's on the table 800 times. Eventually, the bottle's on the table to you is like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. So you have to find a way for this seemingly simple groove, this line that might only be 5 notes, to maintain its meaning, at best evolve into a new meaning equally as meaningful, if not more, in this half hour that you're forced to very tight. And if you, like, I know it's one line, it's only one thing, but the best, most virtuosic players out there, they can't do it because they'll play it twice and it'll be different, let alone 1,000 times. You need it to be exactly the same those 1,000 times. And if anything, you need to be deeper in the pocket by the time you're done than before. Not speeding up, not getting it wrong, not hitting it wrong once, not hitting it wrong twice or 100 times. You have to get it right every single time. And you have to really be deep in the pocket every single time. And it takes a massive amount of concentration.
I remember doing a show at Tipitina's in New Orleans in the mid to late 90s. And this was actually, I think it was after, it might have been after Smoking Grooves, which was 1997. So we did, when we do festivals in P-Funk, this is how P-Funk does festivals. We do a festival in the daytime and we get an hour or 45 minutes or whatever. And then we do a full-blown show every night. So we did a show in New Orleans, wherever we played at the arena or outside. But then we played at Tipitina after. We literally, the show was 6.5 hours. When we came out, the sun was up. The sun was up.
It doesn't matter if you are naturally good at it or not. I was naturally gifted in understanding the pocket, thankfully. And a lot of it came from my classical training and being able to study with Bernie for so long. But a lot of it came naturally. That being said, you still have to put every bit of concentration the moment you think about something else or the moment your mind veers away from the task at hand. You're screwed.
To be entirely present.
Yes, those little weird things. Anybody else, like your average to your best players, they're going to play it so sloppy 2 times and not ever think about it any other. Oh, we play this line now. And it's like, both times they play it, it's not the same.
It's almost like a meditation.
Yes. And it's supposed to compound the meaning as time goes on. You can't lose meaning. There's a lot, like you could write a whole book just about this one little concept I'm talking about. It's just one of the many theories espoused by the Parliament-Funkadelic, especially the guys who were still with us at that time, who've largely passed on, not all, but a lot of them. And they were like real proponents of these theories. And not only is this stuff impactful and important to playing in P-Funk, a lot of these theories are subjectively singular to P-Funk. So like you could play in another funk band, like the Bar-Kays or the Ohio Players, and they don't even utilize these theories. They're just playing through, and they're great. But they're not even doing, it's what you're gonna call digging in, like digging your feet into the ground and not moving. That's a thing that P-Funk perfected. And you can hear the guys from Kool and the Gang and Earth, Wind & Fire talk about it. They'll talk about it in interviews like those guys were on the one and stayed on the one forever. I remember Earth, Wind & Fire we played with them not too long ago in Europe. And Philip Bailey and those guys came out and they were talking to all of us in front of George, and they were like, you guys should have seen George back in the day. They used to, Funkadelic, they would come out and they'd do this one groove, and he said they'd do that the whole night. It's these people who can do it are dying off like the samurai. And I have a couple of peers who are in my age group where we're like early to mid 40s that have learned this stuff from the masters. There's maybe 3 or 4 of us, if that. Everybody else is old, getting older, or gone. So it's one of these things that's been lost to time. And I guess you could teach it at a university, but it still hasn't been indoctrinated or included in the sort of intrinsic learnings and teachings at university level for music students. Yeah.
Not only have you become the historian of P-Funk in terms of telling the story, documenting what happened, but also preserving the ways of playing and the music in a very fundamental way.
So for there to be after knowing this man almost 30 years and being his friend for 30 years, to have like new information come to light from recent interviews, it shows A, how much he's done, B, how good his memory is, and C, just how much there is to still know. And yeah, we definitely uncovered, not just through George's interviews, but through a lot of the other guys too, we uncovered some things that A, nobody's talked about before, and B, nobody's really heard about before.
Yeah.
Danny talked with me about these musical concepts. Danny talked with me about these musical concepts that could be lost to time if we don't preserve them. I think it's actually a physical manifestation of a lot of the work that Danny has done. And we'll talk about that more as we go today. The night before P-Funk Fest, the Soular System played, or North Florida Collective, one of Danny Bedrosian's bands played. I talked to Desmond D'Angelo from Soular System about what funk meant to him, what P-Funk meant to him, and also just how it helped him, how even just the music helped him work through some stuff.
I'm here with Desmond D'Angelo from the Soular System, and they just wrapped up their set this year. First of all, I just want to ask you, like, what did it take to get y'all to come back together for this?
It was pretty simple. They asked us to assemble for the show, and I was like, there's no way we're not doing that. Yeah. So, I mean, it was like, they wanted us to come in and play the show, and then we were like, you know what, we should probably do a routing gig, and so we had a gig last night.
And man, that felt like the pre-party.
It was very much a pre-party.
Everybody was there.
Yeah.
It was a real good time.
I was worried this was going to get shredded a little bit, but being an adult, you show some restraint.
Yeah.
They better come over, man, for you to make it. Can't forget how to say I can do the thing, yeah. Discount prices and all the new prices. They got a thing, yeah. You hold it up and fold it up and sold it up and sold it up. Made out while you go out and get home.
Personally, what does P-Funk like mean to you?
funk has always been not about what you can do, but what you do. And like you can take that however the fuck you want to take it, but like to me, like there was never a fucking funk section in Sam Goody when I was growing up in the fucking 90s and shit, 80s and 90s. It was like funk just got shuffled into other fucking things. It was either R&B and soul or it was...
Man, I'm thinking I worked at Vinyl Fever for several years back in the day. We didn't have a funk.
There was no funk section.
There wasn't. It was all in the soul.
You can't qualify it. You can't quantify it. It's like what you do. If you don't have the funk inside you, then you just fucking carbon copy disco or fucking some kind of grooving ass rock and roll. Shit, man. I'll tell you something that I learned a long time ago. You don't even fucking have to be a funk band to make funk music. You don't pick a file, you pick a mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like to me, that was what funk always was, man. That's why it couldn't be defined. It's a fucking way of life, man.
Yeah.
It's a way of life. And
100%.
that's just who you are and what you do, man. There's zero fucking chance I could sell insurance.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I look like a guy, I look like somebody that got scraped out of the fucking Florida room of a fucking house in Minneapolis. You know what I mean? There's no fucking way that I could fucking be.
But Funketeers do need insurance too. Somebody's got to sell it to them.
Somebody's got to sell the insurance for the funk.
Desmond, what does it mean to you to be part of something like this?
It's glorious, man. You know, when they asked us to reassemble, and because the Soular System hasn't been a band for a long time.
Yeah.
And last year, we had the opportunity to get back together and just throw a party for everybody that was our friends and our fans. A really good time, man. It was a really good time, and we felt like when we got back together, man, it was like, this just makes sense. It didn't make sense that we ever stopped doing this, but it does make sense that we came back together to do it again. So when Shonda fucking contacted us and was like, can we have y'all come play? It was like, there was no question. I really want to do this again, man. I miss all these dudes, man. I think when we disbanded, there was like a lot of like really diva-ass personal shit that fucking went into it that never needed to be there.
Yeah.
A lot of that was on my part. When I'm willing to admit that I might have been part of the thing that stopped this from happening. But we love each other so much, man. We love each other. We're such a family. And relatives are great, but like you pick your family, man. And to be with my family, to be on stage, to be able to do the shit that we did today and feel so good about it. And it just felt so good, man. I don't want it to stop.
I've been going to the shows all my life. My mom
yeah.
has pictures of me when I was like 8 months with her holding me in the audience.
So when did you decide that you wanted to be part of it all and not just like in the audience?
Okay. I've been working with the band for over 30 years. I came out when I was a teenager. I first started in 1994 when I was 15 years old on the Lollapalooza tour. I was doing merch I was probably doing merch for about 4 years or so.
I sold merch as a teenager too.
See?
That was my first job.
See, exactly. Yes, and then Gary Scheider, rest his soul, one of the artists that are usually in the show, she wasn't there that day. So he read all the words. And I'm like, maybe, but I don't want to. And we were in France at the Hot Brass Club in Paris. And he was like, go ahead, get on stage and do the show. And I'm like, but what if I forget the words? And Gary said, in Gary fashion, they don't know. I said, hey, you know what? They don't. And that began my rap career.
Especially in France.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
You definitely don't know there.
Yes, and I rapped for years. And then after a while, I went back and got a degree and came back and did tour management. And now I am a festival organizer. I'm becoming a tour manager. I was already there, just learning the ins and outs. When I first came in and I was doing the merch, my aunt and uncle, Barbarella and Sean, were actually working with the tour managers at the time. So I got a lot of insight from them, so it wasn't much of a turnover and they all loved me, but I wasn't Little Shonda anymore now.
Yeah,
the tour manager.
you're the one that has to make sure that they're where they're supposed to be when they got to be there.
Exactly, and that's hard to do.
How did you handle that dynamic shift?
It wasn't hard.
It wasn't hard
because everybody in the band is my family, and they all have the utmost respect, and they all see that I was always a boss. So it wasn't far-fetched for them to see, and I'm cool. I try to be.
Yeah. I mean,
the only time he took a break, it might have been a couple of years in the early '80s or something. He doesn't
and
stop.
even then, it seems like that was when he was starting to get more into doing film cameos.
Exactly. That's when PCU and
I love
House
that movie.
Party throughout the eras. He completely reinvents himself, is what I'm saying. Yeah, so, like from PCU and what was that, the early 90s?
94, I think it was.
Yeah, 94. Yeah. And I think House Party was a little later than that.
Yeah. And I think PCU is one of those movies that's it's like more relevant
now
no, than it was.
It's a cult classic. And so those were the early 90s, but then you had the 2000s when he did Good Burger. So he's complete.
And
so
I was a kid when that came out. So
yes,
that was
and you have all of these generations that are being reintroduced to him over and over again. And then just look at it as right now, he just did Trolls. So he's King George. So these are all new That's why this festival is going to be so awesome, because this band is so multi-generational.
What I love about this fest is it's celebrating his music, but also all of the music that
legacy,
spawned from
the diaspora of Parliament-Funkadelic.
Down to the God Behind marching.
Yeah, to incorporate the community into it, I think is going to make a big impact. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, and we've played. I don't even know how many shows I've done, or even how many festivals I've done, but none like this. Yeah. None like where's all P-Funk all day. Fans are like family. They've been fans for longer than I've been alive. We have fans, and so this is more like a family reunion. I look online and I see the different advertisement for the festival, and I see some fans like a lady that's in LA and somebody that's in New Jersey, and they've been Facebook friends for 15 years, but they're like, I can't wait until we get to Tallahassee and have a drink and hug each other.
Nice. I really appreciate you stopping in. Is there anything you want to share with the Funketeers before we go?
Thank you all for being Funketeers, and the P-Funk Festival will continue. So if you're not here now, I would love to see you next year.
Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for
Thank you for having me.
You're the best.
Thank you so much.
So I really want to conclude this though with all the things that Danny talks about, all these musical traditions with African American culture that are built into the way of funk, the way of life of funk. And I thought it was really fitting to celebrate that kind of music in somebody's life like that I thought it was really fitting to celebrate George's life, celebrate all the music, celebrate the fact that he has brought black music influence to every kind of music on land that used to subjugate Native American people, black people, and it was beautiful. I really hope that this continues to be a thing in the future, because I think at the end of the day, you can write about music, you can talk about music, but really the way to preserve it, to preserve the history of music, especially something as important as George, and to preserve the concepts that Danny talks about, you really do have to play the music. And I hope that P-Funk Festival lasts for a very long time as a way to keep this music and keep these musical concepts alive. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Go check out all the amazing live videos that I've put together from the P-Funk Fest. Thank you so much to Danny, Shonda, Jason, everybody that worked on P-Funk Fest. It was an amazing experience. It was only the first year. I know that there's going to be so much more to come. Ed and Danny also did a performance over in Jacksonville on Sunday, a comedy music variety. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was absolutely hilarious. Ed Larson is really funny. Holden McNeely was on the show, and he was part of the sketches during P-Funk Fest, and the whole thing was just a lot of fun and hilarious. My buddy Evan Rossi was on that show as well. He killed it. Check out Holden McNeely. Check out Ed Larson. Check out Evan Rossi. Evan and Ed are definitely going to be on the show. I hope Holden will come on too. That would be really cool.
Station, laundry, Cadillac, fly. Gonna miss you, back on planet Earth.